Yes, okay, yes, yes, yes. I plan it. You want me to even start it early? They started there. You don't have to start. Right around. There he is, right there. Right behind you. Can I get you to sign that letter?
Sorry, it's on the road, man. All right.
Good evening. I'd like to bring the meeting to order and ask that roll be called, please.
Feldman. Aye. Holzhauser. Here. Humbles.
Here.
Smith. Here. Tyra.
Here.
Wagenbach.
Here.
Wisdom. Here.
Thank you. I'd like to ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our first order of business is the public hearing to receive the public comments on the proposal to sell not to exceed $2 million of working cash fund bonds for the purpose of increasing the working cash fund. May I please have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll move that.
Thank you, Mr. Feldman. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Feldman.
Aye.
Holzhauser. Aye. Humbles.
Aye.
Smith. Aye. Tyra.
Aye.
Wagenbach.
Aye.
Wisdom.
Aye.
Motion carried, 6:01 p.m. Are there any public comments from the board concerning the proposed issuance of bonds? Is there any written testimony concerning the proposed issuance of bonds? Are there any public comments concerning proposed issuance of the bonds? All persons desiring to be heard have been given an opportunity to present an oral and written testimony with respect to the proposed issuance of bonds. I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
I move to close the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Tyra. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wagenbaugh. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Holzhauser. Aye. Humbles.
Aye.
Smith. Aye. Tyra.
Aye.
Wagenbach.
Aye.
Wisdom.
Aye.
Feldman.
Motion carried, 6:02 p.m. The board will now move on to the public participation portion of the meeting. We will begin with Dr. Dearman and the superintendent's report. Dr. Dearman.
This lump will be for your request, so, and one who's outstanding has been filled by CFO by McKinsey, so thank you for that.
Thank you, Dr. Dearman. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Travis Wilkinson, a teacher at Dunlap High School, and retired Colonel Mike McCarthy of the U.S. Marine Corps to come to the podium for a presentation of the Patriot Award.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Board. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. My name is Mike McCarthy, and I'm a member of the Employers Support Guard Reserve. The ESGR, I'm sorry, I was done. The ESGR, I've covered and referred to, is made up of volunteers, both military, fire, and non-military folks. Our purpose as the members of the ESGR is to keep employers informed as to the needs and the requirements of the Uniform Services Employment Act, as well as members like Travis here that are members of the local guard and reserve throughout the country. We have over 5,000 members, and we rely on volunteers like myself and Angela Williams, also a volunteer, to help us. We're here today, however, to recognize and to appreciate Mrs. Katie Caslett. Katie, would you step forward, please? Oops, we're ready. Gotcha. One of the things we do at ESR, not only do we help for players and for yourselves, as well as members of the National Guard in terms of what is covered and what is not covered with regard to rights of employees and schools. We also have an award program. And Travis has nicely nominated you for an award. Can you tell us why, Travis?
Yes. When I interviewed here at Dunlap High School in June, one of the first things I brought up towards the end of the interview was I've got a very good year in Ontario, and one of the first things was Travis says, "Don't worry about it, we got you." And to her word, she's not above and beyond. So has all the administrative support staff. It's a lot of work. Obligations with the state emergency response team, training, and she's very busy operations. So he's got above and beyond all support staff. So she goes people to their story. Today, I'm sure on high school and also the central office, change blood and never know what to do. That's something more than so it's been very wonderful to work with
On that note, let me read the citation. The Office of the Secretary of Defense, Employee Support of the Guard and Reserve recognizes Katie Caslett, Dunlap High School, as a patriotic employer. She stands up tall. For contributing to national security and protecting liberty and freedom by supporting employee participation in America's National Guard and Reserve Force. Signed by our Executive Director in Washington, as well as our National Chair. Katie. One more thing, I'm going to sneak up and sneak in on you. This is a statement of support. It's not legal documents. It's a statement of support for the Guard and Reserve High School. All I want to do is put your signature on it. You hang it up anywhere, hang it over the building, or this building. That's one of those boxes I got to check to make it easier.
Thank you. That was exciting. And Mrs. Caslett had no idea, so Dr. Dearman can deal with her later. Okay. Next, I'd like to ask Mr. Holmes, our athletic director, to come to the podium for recognition of the Lady Eagles tennis team.
Absolutely. We've had a great fall athletic season, from football to soccer, cross country, track, tennis, and a number of our sports in state, not only as a team collectively, we also had a duo that finished third in state as well in a double. So I'd like to invite Mr. Allison and Mr. Morning to please come up, and they're going to say a few words on how well they did, some of their accomplishments, and I was going to introduce those girls that represented Dunlap High School in our community with grace and honor, and extremely hard. So obviously, congratulations to our ladies, our coaches. Without further ado, Coach Morning.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time, and again, to board members, happy board member appreciation week, day celebration. As far as our tennis season goes, this has been one of the most memorable girls season for sure that I've had. We've been incredibly proud of our girls and the way they've been fighting. They fought all year against not just the best in single A tennis, but the best in 2A tennis. We had a lot of great finishes in a lot of our tournaments. Some of the highlights, we collected a first place team finish at Bloomington Invite. We won first at the South Peru. We won first at the Richmond Invite. We finished 20-2 overall. We lost to the 2A team champion 6-3, and then we lost to split squad day. We were undefeated in conference leading up to sectionals, where we scored a perfect 36 points at our sectional over in Galesburg. So Coach Allison and I got to have an easy day of not having to coach our last match because our girls were playing our girls. So that was a lot of fun. First time we've had that for the girls, and then getting all the girls up to state was huge. For probably I think the third or fourth time in the history of Dunlap tennis, boys or girls, we had a quarterfinal win in the tournament, which is worth 4 points, and was a big part of how we finished in third place. This is our first trophy for the girls program, third overall for our entire tennis program. So it's a huge accomplishment, and Coach Allison and I and Coach Partington and Coach Vogel couldn't have been more proud of the work they put in. Out of those 6 that went to state, 4 of them ended up on all-state teams, and we actually had 7 members out of the 16 all-conference players. We had 7 of them were our girls. So that gives you an idea of the dominance that these ladies have shown, and we're incredibly proud of them. We'll call them up here one at a time. So we were lucky enough to be able to have the support to take 2 alternates with, just in case somebody got hurt before the tournament started. And they played 3 doubles for us majority of the year, even as easy to do so for all of them. And then the team that finished second at sectional finished one match just outside of finishing all state. Was the doubles team easy to do so. There we go. And Miss Emily Clemens. And as far as state qualifiers, this was Issa's first year doing this, and this is Emily's second year qualifying for state. And then in singles, our third place all-state player was, for the second year in a row, she's only qualified for state twice, but she's only a sophomore, so she's only had 2 chances. And she's been all-state both years. It's my mom. And then finishing second team all-state. This is her third year being all-state, second time in a row in singles, finishing second team all-state, which means she's in the top 12 of the girls in 1A, is the Sheet Agriculture. Not only did continues to do a great job at state. She's also our current total varsity victories record holder with 131 victories. So,
Yes, I know all of her.
she did. And then, on the most exciting, on our last day in state, we've been there with boys season in the spring. We were kind of hoping people would lose and we didn't have anyone playing. This year, we were lucky enough to have a team playing still for 4 points, trying to win us points, and they did a great job. They finished third under the on-court coaching, Coach Allison here. They ended up finishing third, which put them on first team All-State. Our first time state qualifier as a sophomore in this house, so we're going to come on. And then our third time state qualifier is going to continue her playing career at Illinois College next fall this year. So, yeah, we had a very successful season, very appreciative of the support and being able to take our alternates up so that they can see what it's like and get an idea of that for next year. Hopefully, when alternates up. No pressure.
I'd like to say thank you to the coaches and the girls for coming tonight and their parents, but I'd also like to recognize that our coaches work long hours. They're there early in the morning with their bagels when breakfast isn't served yet, and late at night giving rides and taking care of the girls. But I also like to recognize Mr. Allison because this is his last year, so he says, but we really appreciate all his years of service. So thank you both. We really appreciate it.
Really is a great accomplishment, and thank you for allowing us to recognize it.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to move on to the public comments. Is there anyone here who wishes to address the board? If so, please raise your hand. There's no one here to address the board at this time. There's no one who wishes to address the board, so this concludes the public participation portion of the meeting, and we'll now move on to the information discussion items.
Abby, can I say something?
Sure.
I meant to say it when Dr. Ginneman was up there. I went to the resource night, was that a week or two ago? Last week, was it? Okay, they blend together for me, right? Maroon and gold, all these other nights, that was nice too. But the resource night was extremely well done. And I was there last year too, and I think it was done fine last year, but they tweaked it, and a lot of great tables and presenters, and I don't know how well attended it was. Seemed like there was a pretty good crowd when I was up there, but it couldn't have been done more better or professionally. So,
Very nice. Thank you. The school activity account reports are included in the packet. Is there any discussion? Information regarding the Right at School summer daycare program has been included in the board packet. Any discussion? Next, Mr. Andrews will present information regarding the Illinois report card for the 2022-23 school year. Mr. Andrews.
Thank you. So I clocked myself at 8:30 when I practiced this earlier today, and that was with a phone call in between. So,
Okay, ready, go.
all right. So here's just a breakdown of what I hope to accomplish and share with you this evening. First off, just a reminder that we are in the fine-tuning stages of our strategic plan indicators that would be used to then create a balanced scorecard to report out on the progress of our new strategic plan. We exhausted the last one and reported out on that last school year, so there is no balanced scorecard indicator data for this presentation. So just summative designations, did you know on October 30th?
time's up.
Okay. Dr. Dearman had sent out an email explaining that the Illinois report cards were live, the data embargo was lifted, and with that, summative designations for all of our 8 buildings in the district. And just to remind us, we have different data that is looked at when that is determined, and that's based on elementary and middle school versus high school data. The biggest differences is just at the high school. The largest indicator there is high school graduation rate, and then at the elementary middle school, it's ELA and math growth data. Proficiency scores for ELA, math, and science are also included in that as well. We're very happy to report that the amazing efforts of our teachers, building administrators, and of course our hardworking students landed all of our buildings in the top 2 designations, exemplary and commendable. So congratulations to them, and thank you for their ongoing hard work. I skipped over this. When it comes to that, which is kind of important, when it comes to the now 5 designations that schools can earn, the difference between that exemplary and commendable is that if you move to the commendable category, if the overall performance data does not meet within the top 10% of all schools. So that's for all those indicators overall. This chart probably looks familiar. If you actually click on it, it'll take you to the historical data. This is just the 2023 school year data. And when you break it down, when you look at the raw scores, and the weighted would be like the points that you get for that raw score for hitting or being further away from the threshold weight marks that you need. We look at that raw data in various forms, but this would definitely show by a quick glance that where we continue to need to focus our time and our resources would be in our ELA growth, and our math data, those biggest indicators, as well as chronic absenteeism. And I'll touch on another one a little bit later. But in terms of the number of points and where we do see growth, that's where we have room to grow. So what we've already have in place, of course, as you know, is at the elementary level with our updated literacy practices, and the support that we're able to provide as we transition to a structured literacy instruction plan at the elementary level. We have started and will continue our data analysis at the math with math programming across the district to inform any potential next steps in terms of programming changes or additional support that's needed or resources. Mandy Ellis has done a fantastic job in her new role as Director of Student Services on ensuring that attendance codes are consistent across buildings, our practices are the same, communication that's sent out to families in terms of support. So your chronic absenteeism is missing 10% or more of the school year. So 18 days there. So looking to see how we can help support. So that's just a quick overview of that, but the actual Illinois report card has quite a bit of information. This is just a snapshot of the district report card, and from there you can actually click on and look at individual building data. It has, of course, historical data on there for all the things that I've mentioned, as well as additional data breakdown about teachers in terms of levels of education, all sorts of finance data, retired assessment data. It really is a good way to go and just do some data diving. So again, if any of you are wanting some more information on that, I'm more than happy to talk that through with you. Also on the report card, you will see the SAT composite score. They do focus in Illinois on the proficiency levels that are different from the College Board, the maker of the SAT. But we do report out annually, of course, on the SAT composite score. So we do see ourselves, again, well above the state average, 158 points there. So another strong year. Again, testament to our teachers across the system, particularly at the high school, and our juniors for dedicating themselves during the assessment time and throughout their studies here at the high school. So another good celebration. In the past, just to kind of to bring some relative data that we've talked about traditionally, advanced placement performance, we did have 91% of those who took AP exams this past school year earn a passing score, which is a 3, 4, or a 5. So that's humongous. AP exams continue to be redone, continue to be having curriculums that are implemented. So in order to do that, teachers take time out of their summers to realign their coursework. So it's not just to come in and press plates, it's a lot of reorienting things. So thank you very much to our alternative assessment that some of our special education population will take. that measures ELA math and science proficiency. But in terms of real live data we look at all the time, star reading and math data is what we take a look at here to make a lot of decisions about what support students will need. And we've been reporting for the past several years, making sure that from a fall to winter standpoint that we are seeing an upward trend in terms of proficiency. And to draw close to that data that we had shown, because last year you would have seen fall of 22 data, we did see that uptick in winter, just like the trend you would see with each year of those. So that is positive and reassuring. And like with the state's assessment data, we also look at internal growth percentile data that is used for both certified staff and administrator as part of their evaluations, our evaluation ratings. And again, we see typical growth, which is a standard deviation above and below average 50, so a range of 35 to 65. But again, as our focus is on growth within both of those categories, this would, of course, positively affect that, as we would hope it would. So overall, again, we increased proficiency on the IR ELA and SAT ELA, which is great, and all buildings met proficiency benchmarks across the board there. Those will increase each year by an average of either 6 or, depending upon which subgroup you're looking at, 6 to 12% proficiency levels will rise in terms of what schools will have to meet. We continue to meet those, which is fantastic. Increase the ninth grade on track indicator, which had dipped last year, and that's making sure that students are passing 10 or 5 classes per year, or a total of their equivalent of 10 credits by the state's definition of that. So again, our growth will continue to be a focus there through our work here at the curriculum department, as well as how student services and special ed will support that. And then in terms of one of the other indicators we had noted was our what's called the English language learner path to proficiency, and this is tracking our ability to help students, multilingual learners who have entered our school district achieve English language proficiency and then be exited from ESL services. And to address our growing need of ESL teachers, we added a half ESL teacher at Ridgeview this year. That population has continued to grow this year. And at the high school, we had an influx at the beginning of this year, and we were able to get ESL teachers here, additional help with a paraprofessional, which has been a tremendous help in that program. So continuing to focus on that and how we can support them not only with resources in terms of textbooks and materials, but human resources as well. This just outlines our next steps in terms of the indicators and our department plan. Any questions? Yeah.
Go back to the graduation rate and explain, I'm sure you have this information as you go to the school report cards, you can click, thank you for the links in there, but it looks like it's declined from about 96 to 92, 95.2 to 91.8. Is there a change in the way that that's calculated? Or?
Correct. So when students who are in our life skills program transition and stay on until they are 22 years of age, that does affect the graduation rate, but we are dedicated to our students, and we know that that's going to be something that does impact that data.
I have a question about the attendance. Have we noticed that since the COVID issue, the staying home, that type of thing, that the chronic absences have been higher?
We have
they seem a lot higher than in the past.
Yes, it definitely is building specific. So, and we have lots of things to come into play. Like last year, obviously we wore a mask for the whole year for the first time, which is lots of people being sick. People were able to go and visit family for the first time in several years. So you had different anomalies like that. Again, we continue to monitor that and educate how it's important that students are in their seats for the 174 days a year and see what we can do. So, but we do see that.
I just don't think I've ever seen it that high.
Mental health concerns as well. A lot of us reach out.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
The timeliness of that is, we had our Central Illinois Valley Region meeting today, of which I am the president and run that meeting. We had roundtable discussions, and the number one topic amongst all the districts, there's probably 40 superintendents in the room, was exactly that. So working with the ROE 53, which is in Tazewell, also ROE 48, which is Peoria, which we're part of, it's Regional Office of Education. They're putting together a task force to look at what can be done to try and curtail that. So it is not uncommon, unfortunately.
To go back to Teresa's question about graduation, I would be remiss if I didn't say that we got full points for that because of that, because Kim Wolfcool, the registrar here at the high school, was really great and worked with me over the summer, and she did all the hard work of digging to make sure that everyone was correctly exited and our records were up, so because that first number was not looking like that. There continue to be some data anomalies in the state system, and she's really good at sticking to that.
Any further questions for Mr. Andrews? Thank you very much for a very thorough presentation. Information regarding the board policy updates from press. Updated memo 1113 has been included in the board packet. Is there any discussion? Okay. Information regarding the 2024-2025 school calendar has been included in the board packet. Is there any discussion?
I would just make one comment, Abby.
Sure.
And I know that the calendar's complicated and you're not gonna make everyone happy all the time. But I was on the calendar committee once, and I'm not volunteering to be on it. But I will say that and I know there's different ways to, to cut this, but I just want it noted that the Fridays in May, it doesn't work for the average bear or a two working parent household very well. And so I just want that, I just want that noted, and I want to keep it on the, on the table for discussion, because it just, and as an employer, I mean, I get feedback at work about it as well. So I just want it noted. I know it worked, it's working at Farmington, and it worked at DMAC and other places, and it might be working here. I just don't agree with it, so.
I concur. Every year I have to ask Dr. Dearman, now how does this Friday thing work? I don't understand it.
I don't like it,
I think it helps, but.
I'm not objecting to it, just go with whatever the
well,
committee decided, but I just don't dig it at all.
I also received an email from a parent who was concerned, and I did forward that parent on to you, but once you have met with the teacher representatives and, you both come to this conclusion, the board really does not involve themselves too much in the calendar. They go based on recommendation, but I do think that's an area where some parents have commented as well. I'm not sure if anyone else has received emails, but I know it takes a lot of work to get that calendar together. I used to have to do it, so I understand. Can't please everyone, but anyway, thank you, Mr. Feldman.
Yep.
Okay, any further discussion about the calendar? Information regarding the Dunlap High School parking options have been included in the board packet. Is there any discussion? Next, I'm sorry.
Do we want to have discussion on the parking? There's three and maybe Dr. Adrian, I don't know, you can go through it. Dr. Dearman.
Dr. Adrian did the work more personally than I am, but we both are knowledgeable about it.
Okay. As we're looking at the options and from what we see with the increase of the actual parking issue that we encounter today, and I know Katie, I probably sent you a couple emails because I get questioned quite often about that. And we're looking at these options, which is 1, 2, and 3, where you see option 1 with 32 parking spaces, option 2 with 48, option 3 with 127, and clearly the cost per space for 127 is significantly less, more than half than some of the other options. But as we look at this, knowing that we have such a need for parking, is this something that we need to move on quicker rather than later? Or what are your thoughts there?
Do you want to do a parking lot sooner rather than the summer? I'm not sure that'd be possible.
No, how quickly can we?
I think we could have one ready by next summer, or next school year.
Okay.
But we have to move that timeline
think starting before, school is out is gonna impact anything, because, where I think the recommendation is gonna go, option 3 off the back of the teacher's lot, shouldn't really impact anything right there. There's quite a bit of space where they can park equipment, not get in the way of anything. I did meet with Jack Esterdahl, he's the mayor of Dunlap today, because if you look at that, there used to be an entrance there according to Jack, and they closed it off. But I drive to the high school, you know, every day, and have for the last 6 years. If you miss that window, it's actually 8:01. If I got there at 8:04 2 days ago, and it took me till 8:12 to get to the corner and turn right on Legion Hall. Now, once I hit that corner, I was fine, but it took 8 minutes to get from Copperfield, that's how far it was backed up, all the way up there. And what you have, I saw in my rear view mirror, is people starting to cut through Copperfield to get around and come around by the BP on Legion Hall. Well, that's an issue because there's not as much traffic as it used to be at that time, and you could get 10 cars coming off 91, every one off of that entrance. Well, now it's 1-to-1 because you're taking turns. It just backs it up even more. But I think Mr. Wisdom and I talked about this, and I agree with him. I think that can alleviate some of that pressure, because we're looking at 100+ parking spaces, and we could funnel those students in right there, and it shouldn't back up as much, I wouldn't think. But I think it's certainly an option. Once we get them on campus, it flows pretty well, but it's getting there that's the problem.
Is there a way, and that we could look at another option, and maybe Tim, I don't know if you want to comment on this, about having another entrance off of 91, and I know that when we did the parking study with Tara several years ago, that was an option. Have we looked at that?
Well, when we talked about that a couple years ago, it was $1.1, $1.2 million at the time of World was interested in that road.
I think some of us were interested.
And they weren't sure that that was gonna alleviate a lot of our problems, because when you come in on the back of that middle, you would have to cross an existing bus lane to get out, and then you really wouldn't be able to go straight to the high school, so you go back around the loop. So that, it sounds good, and I think I told Mr. Wisdom prior, no way we would object to more entrances or exits. I think we all know that we could benefit from those. We were just weren't sure if that, at the time, that money would be efficient or beneficial in the long run. I mean, it sounds great. I know we'd have to solicit IDOT to get that entrance off there. I spoke earlier about we could get it to the parking lot here to the north by the school year, but then if we do decide to revise that, have a bus or a lane, 2 lane coming in and out of there, we'd have to probably have to solicit IDOT again probably for an entrance, even though we had an existing one there years ago. It may complicate things or take a little more time. Not saying those can't be done, I think that's probably money well spent, but I do think it may back up our timeline a little bit, so we probably need to start on that as soon as possible.
If I remember right, when Tara was talking about putting the entrance off 91 towards DMS, their concern was the feeder schools from DMS all come from Cedar Hills. They don't, and there's no quick way to cut from Cedar Hills over to 91.
Correct.
And that's the bulk of that traffic.
So it's like you're either a Cedar Hill person or you're a 91 person, and you would think whichever one you're at, you think it's the worst thing in the world. So I can promise you the other one is bad or worse.
Cedar Hills is far worse, but
And like Dr. Newman said, if we just had bus lanes to get a bus lane, there wouldn't be any problem. Because our buses are there. I'm out there looking, 8 o'clock, 8:02, they're stuck, 400 or 500 yards from a turn to get in. And they're there with every pedestrian and mother and father or student driving to work. So they're clogged up too. But like Dr. Newman said, once they know traffic, it's a pretty consistent and steady flow. But we can certainly explore that. Other option off 91. It will, obviously, we know cost more money. We can also take that north parking lot, that's what you guys decide you want to do, and revise that and have 2 lanes of traffic, one coming in, one going out. That will obviously eliminate some of our growth, but we'll still have a net gain of probably 100 spots. So that's certainly an option, whatever you guys decide you want to explore.
I think we were looking at that entrance, and then we said, well, let's do this traffic study first and see how that's worked out. Well, it was okay last year, but this year, for some reason, there's exponentially more. I don't know if it's a bigger freshman class, but it's frustrating. It's a good 20-minute wait if you don't get here before 10 to 8 by the time you get, and I'm not talking Cedar Hills, it's even worse. I mean, Cedar Hills is worse, but I know you've noticed it this year, a few other people have noticed it, and I think it's time we really need to think about doing something. Maybe not a ring road, maybe another entrance, I don't know what you wanna call it, but I've been at many, many schools in my career, and drop-off time and pickup time are always bad. And I've heard a lot of complaints when I was a superintendent or a principal. But this is probably one of the worst that I've dealt with, and it's, as a parent, it's frustrating.
You saw how they cleared out the trees out of that field on your way home? Did you notice that? That field on your way home, they cleared all them trees out? Didn't take them very long at all.
Oh,
Look, at Lawn Legion Hall,
yeah,
it can get done pretty fast, that part, but
yeah,
you gotta get the entrance. That's the main thing.
yeah. It's just like, kind of like, I hope it wouldn't get complicated as the banner septic, which just got done last week, by the way. Finally hooked up and fully functional. That is a long, process, when you work through everything, when you get all the different, municipalities involved, but I want to give J.C. Dillon a shot, did a very good job, came in on the weekend, suddenly we were hooked up, and did a great job, but long process sometimes.
So tell me, how does that help making another entrance into that option 3 parking lot? I mean, you still got the traffic all on the road.
Take at least, it's gonna take all the teachers out of that loop, it's gonna take a lot of the students out of that, at least 100 students drive out of that loop, coming down the stop sign and turning in and getting in the lane with everybody else. So that's gonna help.
Well, the
Less
teacher,
traffic coming in that turn is the less traffic you have to stop coming off Cedar Hills, so that's 100 cars at least.
but the teachers are here usually before students, right?
There's not
Most
teachers
of
in
the
that
time.
line, is there?
No, the teachers are usually here, which is why I know they don't, it's probably not preferable, but if the teachers were to park inside, that would be more spaces up front, so there's less students driving around, especially new drivers. It's very dicey out there for an old driver. I mean, poor Katie, I've texted her a couple times, there's a bus in the drop-off lane, or this guy's passing the non-passing zone and cutting through the gas station. It's very dangerous. The teachers that are out there do such a good job at stopping the traffic so the kids can cross. And if anyone's listening who drops off, please pull all the way to the end for the drop-off line, because if you stop right in front, the rest of us either have to pass you or wait. It's just very frustrating. I don't know what the answer is, but I know as a parent, I've about reached my limit.
Yes, it could definitely help us. I don't want to bet too much on that as far as what the impact would be, but it has to have some positive impact.
Yeah, sure.
Mrs. Caslowitz also talked about, she's down to 8 zero-hour classes this year, which is a decline, and she increases that to 14 or 15 and make those students come in early. That's going to help too. So that you're taking 50 cars, maybe 60 cars out of that, 100 out of that, that's a big difference. And that can keep things a little more better. Certainly worth exploring, certainly take whatever direction we have.
Those numbers that you gave us when you counted cars, you had a whole bunch of available spaces though, didn't you? What was that about?
Those are the numbered spaces that are paid for, that are reserved, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're open. Just a student has purchased that spot,
They
they're
weren't
just
there.
not using it that day.
Or they left early, or they have early
Yeah,
release, or they're
there's a million
sick.
different reasons.
We need a
That doesn't help the
toll
traffic
booth.
issue.
But Katie's done a good job, Mrs. Caslett has done a good job
Yes.
working with Mr. Johnson. We've added some spots, we've got 5 people on the waiting list as of today when we spoke. We've got 15 midterm grads, so, hopefully we'll get a few spots out of that.
Graduate
So I think we'll be okay to limp through the end of this year, but there's no doubt, we need the parking.
If we have that additional entrance, it's coming in just south of the tennis courts, is that right?
In the picture that Tim drew,
North of the tennis court.
South.
South.
maybe south.
Okay. So it's coming into that back lot behind EMS essentially. Could we add on to that lot back there? Is there room?
Now, there's
woods.
a retention pond back there.
Down
Can't
the
do
bottom.
anything with
Yeah.
money.
I definitely don't want to delay.
I don't either.
So what are the next steps in
I have a
order?
number of thoughts on this. First of all, you're talking about 2 separate projects, parking, the new entrance. Don't tie them together, because it will delay the progress on the parking. And if you're concerned that getting IDOT's approval of an entrance off Legion Hall Road will slow down your parking lot, if that's the decision of the board, then build it the way it's shown. You can always add that connection once approved. It's not gonna be a big thing. You can cut the curb and you connect up to the road. So that's not a big deal. the second one, Teresa's saying, for the cost effectiveness, the bang for your buck, third option is the only one, in my opinion. And then it's a question of who you assign where. But I think if we could get that entrance off of Legion Hall, it would definitely take some of the pressure off. Maybe not enough, but so those are my thoughts.
What about them not getting in the back door though? They're gonna do that?
We would already, I mean, we've already made changes because the bus was so.
Let them in.
Good deal.
Dr. Adrian, when we had the Terra engineering study and when we had that plan from the administration bill, I showed you the plan, they talked about bringing buses into that entrance off Legion Hall Road.
Right. That's why I originally thought you meant, then you mentioned having students or faculty come in, and that may be a better idea.
That would alleviate a lot too, because the buses, I mean, they need to get in. They need to get in right away. But they also, you know, parents have to wait for them. Many parents are very good about letting the buses go in ahead, but it'd be so much better if the buses didn't have to contend with all the cars.
Yeah, I mean, you could make that buses only.
Yeah, I mean, I think getting it in like you mentioned, so what I hear you saying, and again, no one's made a motion yet, but you start putting things together for option 3, and then explore the possibility of why we're going through that, adjusting to the 2 lanes, because that's gonna slow us down. Just stick with the parking for this year, and then revise it in the future.
Well, I think let's find out if IDOT really does have to approve it, and maybe make an approach and see if they are going to object. It could be that we're arguing about not, and they think that we don't care.
I believe we approached someone about the entrance off of 91 at one time.
Yeah, IDOT told us at the time they would go along with us having another entrance on 91. We're talking about Legion Hall Road now.
Mr. Wisdom, would you like to make a motion then?
Oh, I thought this was information.
It's information.
Well, he said if we can make a motion now, do we have to, can we proceed?
Yes.
Let's proceed
In
now.
fact,
Let's
We're
hear
gathering
that.
information.
Dr. Adrian sent me near the end of the day, our architect engineer firm has already drawn up plans for the parking area in number 3.
Let's do it.
I mean, we could get that bid, and as it stands, you could leave it, the curb could be turned, you know, so that you can easily connect up to the road, but just don't do it. And then stripe it for parking, and then when the time comes in to connect up, you black out those stripes and you got your road. It's not a big deal. So I think the sense of that, I'm taking it that the sense of the board is that number 3 is everybody seemed to agree that that's the best option.
I agree.
Yeah. But I would urge you to.
I can bring some information back after talking to some of the engineering firms to see, to maybe give you a definite action item for next month.
Well, honestly, between now and then, you could get bids. I think we could get bids on that. And really be ready to go and have a hard number so the board knows what it is. That's.
I think he had a bid. He's got a bid, doesn't he?
What's that?
Doesn't he have a bid?
No, that's just.
That's clear.
It's an estimate. It's an
Well,
estimate.
you had to talk to somebody to get that, didn't you?
Well, there is, so. Engineering is not a contractor.
Alright, so.
They've been pretty accurate so far.
Okay, so you're gonna get that to us by next month?
I will try.
If not sooner.
When you, I mean, yeah, we'll try.
Okay,
I'll get you something better than this.
all right, thank you so much.
I think it's gonna be a problem. We're not gonna get good bids because we're moving too fast. Don't do that either. Because we're not gonna start this until months, so not a mad rush. We just need a direction.
Thank you, Dr. Reed.
Okay, thank you. Next, Mr. McKenzie will print information regarding the 2023 tax levy. Mr. McKenzie.
Less than anything like minutes, right?
I'll take that.
Matt messed it up, so good thing you fixed it for me. I would have no idea. I probably could have figured it out given enough time, but we don't really take that time. All right, so tax levy presentation. Every year this time in November, we talk about the tax levy. so that we can, all right. First thing I always like to throw out there is a couple definitions, because we set the levy, which is a dollar amount that we are requesting the county to tax for us. The county is the one who's responsible for the equalized assessed valuation. The assessors and stuff with the county do all that. We have no control over that. The tax rate is determined by the county, but it's based on the levy and the EAV. And then there's an extension, which is the final amount of taxes that we're expecting to receive, based on the tax rate and the levy that we, so I just like to throw out those terms, remind everybody. Tonight is the tax levy presentation, which, the totals are the estimate of revenues needed. Because I'm recommending that we do a levy that's more than 105% of the prior year extension, we will have to do a publication of a truth and taxation hearing, and then at the board meeting, we will have to do a hearing, tax levy hearing, and then the approval on December 21st. And then we'll have to get everything signed that night, because I need to get it filed with the county the next day. Usually it's last Tuesday in December, but with Christmas and everything, just to make sure that we don't run into any problems. I've already talked to them, and they're fine with us bringing it on that 22nd. They'll be open and everything, so I will file the levy on 22nd. Just to kind of go over how I go about planning this, I always talk to the county assessor to get an estimate of what he thinks EAV is going to be. Keep in mind, EAV is not really set until April, but the county's been going through all their hearings and all their people complaining about their EAVs and stuff, so they have a pretty good idea. They're usually pretty close. So that's where I always start. Then I start talking about to Dr. Dearman, and this year I had a principal who wanted to learn how to do it as part of a class they're taking to be a superintendent, so I had him sit through the whole process, so that just throwing ideas around and trying to make sure we're thinking of everything. Oops. And then we determine our level of need for the restricted funds, and then now this is taking information to you. So here's last year's tax levy. I throw this up there to remind you. We always think of your tax levy, your taxes as being one number, because that's what shows on your tax return, or not your tax return, but your property tax bill. So, but when we set the levy based on the various funds and the various purposes. Some of them have a maximum rate, which that second column says maximum rate. So the education fund, the most we can levy is 2.7 cents. The special education is 4 cents. The O&M is 0.475. Those are set by either state statute or a referendum. You could do a referendum to change those, but those are our maximum rates we can do in those sections. The ones that don't have a max rate are the ones that are referred to as potentially unlimited levy. We can levy whatever we need in those funds. So in theory, obviously there's politics and everything involved, but in theory you can levy whatever you need to spend in those funds, and all those funds have very specific purposes. You can only use the money for that purpose, and so that's why they have unlimited rates. So then we set last year the yellow column, which was the 2022 levy, and I told you at the time that we asked for a little bit more in the funds that have a max rate, so because we have to ask for a dollar amount. It'd be easy if I could just say, county, do 2.7 cents for education. That would be easy, but that's not how it works. We have to ask for a dollar amount. So we asked last year for $24,900,000, which once all the calculations were done would have given us a rate of 2.74 cents. We can only get 2.7, so the county only levied 2.7. And so we knew this. It's all kind of a, convoluted game that, not really game, but just a process that happens. So I told you last year that even though we're levying 40,899,000, which is the bottom of the yellow column, we knew approximately what we were going to get. So I thought the final rate would be 4.448 and a couple other decimal points, but it ended up, once everything got done, as our final rate that the county levied was 4.44704. That's that bottom right field. So this year, the county is estimating that our EAV is going to increase 7.93%. They are usually pretty accurate, so I figure that's probably going to be correct. But because of the fact that we want to make sure that we get 2.7 cents in the education fund and the 0.04, we need to ask for a little bit more than that just in case the county is wrong. So I think we're going to get in the column that says 7.93% increase. I think we're going to get 26 million in education, all the way down to 43,435,000. But we need to ask for a little bit more than that to make sure that in those max rate ones, we get the max rate. In the other funds that don't have a max rate, we ask for specifically what we want. And so that, or what we need to fill those in. So then the proposed levy is really based on a 9% increase in EAV instead of the 7.93%. Even though we know we're going to get closer to the 7.93, not the 9%. In those limited levies. The other thing I've done in this levy is you can see that the IMRF and Social Security line stays zero. A couple years ago, we decreased them by 600,000, 300,000 each, because we've had a big balance in IMRF and Social Security. On the board agenda today is a proposal to issue working cash bonds. So my proposal here in the tax levy is that we don't levy anything for IMRF Social Security. No, we're going to have a big deficit in that fund for a couple of years. And instead levy money in the bond line, which is the third from the bottom, that the same $1 million essentially that we were normally doing IMRF Social Security, we instead levy in bonds to pay for the working cash bonds that are proposed on the board agenda tonight. So, assuming the bonds are approved, this is what we will recommend in next month. If the bonds are not approved, then we'll have to have a discussion and figure out exactly what the final proposal will be for next month, for the official tax levy on December 21st. The other thing we have to do, the new law last year, we have to do a disclosure of cash balances. So as of June 30th, these were our cash balances. Remember that $18 million of this money we just got on June 22nd. It's because we get our first tax levy amounts across all the funds in June. There's June 1st, the county gives us money on June 22nd this year. So 18 million of that 22 million in cash and cash equivalents we had just got from the county, 8 days before the end of the year. So, so even though we have a lot of very strong fund balances, I just always like to point that out when I show these numbers, because it is a point in time. June 30th is just a point in time where you have a certain amount in your bank account, but you're right before you start having to pay all the new year bills. So, the other thing next month we'll be bringing to you, just like every December, I just want to remind you, is the county school facility sales tax bonds. We have bonds for when we built onto the valley, the Dunlap Valley Middle School. That bond is being paid for out of county school facility sales tax. We put $90,000 every month that we get from that sales tax into the debt service fund to pay for that bond. And so, because of the legalities of it, we have to formally approve an abatement every year. So the county doesn't also levy for the money we already have, so, to pay this debt. So that will be in December also. And really, that's all I have for any questions.
Any questions for Mr.
Yeah, I
McKenzie?
have a question. Go back to the page, Mike, 2023 estimated tax levy. So what you're believing our tax rate actually will be is slightly lower than last year?
Slightly lower than last year,
And
yeah.
is that in the blue, 4.439, is that based on the 9% increase?
No, it's based on, 7 point, assuming that if the EAV comes in at 7.93% increase, our final rate will be at that 443 or right around there.
But we're asking for the 9%.
We're asking for the 9% just to make sure that we get the maximum amount in those max rate funds.
You don't think we'll end up getting something in between 7.93 and 9%?
Oh, if the county's wrong, I mean, yeah, if the county, is telling me 7.93.
Bottom line, that won't change our tax rate.
It won't change our tax rate, no. No, we'll still, yeah, our tax rate's gonna be that, close to that 4.43. If the county's wrong and we end up getting 8.5% EAV increase, that will actually decrease that line. If they're wrong and we happen to get 7% or something, that's gonna increase that tax rate a little bit, but it's,
Just
pennies, but,
A penny or two.
yeah.
for clarification too, I think a lot of people, it's hard to understand until you've actually done the levy, but the way we used to explain it was, the city is saying we're gonna get this percent. But if by chance something comes along and we get a little bit more, we're leaving money on the table if we only ask for that amount.
Right.
So, like you said, it's kind of a game or a dance that you play.
Yeah, it's not I hate to say game, but it's definitely a little bit of a dance, a little bit of the art of this rather than the science of it. And up in the suburbs back in the day, they would know they would suspect they're going to get 7.93%, and they'd levy 25% increase because they had so much construction going on, they just didn't know where they were going to get. So they would do what that's kind of referred to as a balloon budget, where you balloon it up really high, knowing that you're not going to get that amount. And so down here, we're a little bit more reasonable. In the downstate area, we always just increase it a little bit just to, in case the counties miss something. They're very good at it. I mean, Dave Ryan at the county, the assessor's office, is always very, very close by this time of the year. So.
Okay, any further questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Kinsey, appreciate it. This concludes the information discussion items. The board will.
We have another item.
H.
We have an
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. The deadline for the Clifton Strengths Test. I was asked to put this on the budget so that we could start planning. We have all our administrators, have they taken the test?
Yes.
Okay, Mrs. Holzhauser, do you want to explain? I know you've spoken with the
I know
coordinator.
that, the consultant, Ann Oliver, I think she contacts you as well, Abby.
Yeah.
I know she contacted me simply because I have a relationship with her with my, employer, and she indicated that, as Dr. Dearman said, all of the administration have taken the test. There are some, so what we're, planning on doing is put a target date on there of, Friday, December 15th, so that gives 30 days for the board members who have not taken it. And it is completely voluntary. If you'd like to participate, you can. If not, that's okay. When we have the blending session with Mrs. Oliver and Oliver, then that'll be the people that did participate in the assessment. So just want to get that out there, that we are putting a target date out there for the completion of the assessment. I think it takes maybe, I'm going to say less than 20 minutes to do. You've just recently done it. I did it several years ago, so that gives everyone 30 days.
Yeah, I took about 20 minutes. I know Mr. Wisdom took it. I thought it was pretty enlightening, very helpful.
Yeah,
Kind of hone in on
honestly, I would
skills.
say at my age, I think I know myself awfully well, which I guess I do, but it was really interesting, what I learned from having taken that. So for those who have that, I would encourage you to do it. It's worth the time.
Okay, very well. Thank you much. This concludes the information discussion item. The board will now move on to the consent agenda. Is there any discussion regarding the items on the consent agenda? May I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move that.
Was it Mr. Feldman?
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Feldman. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wisdom. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Humbles,
Aye.
Smith. Aye. Tyra.
Aye.
Wagonbach.
Aye.
Wisdom.
Aye.
Feldman.
Aye.
Olshauser.
Aye. Motion carried, 7:06. Board will now move on to the action items. Bill list, treasurer's report, and district investment report is included in the board packet. May I have a motion to approve payment of bills?
I move to approve payment of the bills in the amount of $7,375,801.16 as presented.
Thank you, Mrs. Holzhauser. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Who did it?
Take it back out here.
Thank you, Mr. Wisdom. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Smith. Aye. Tyra.
Aye.
Wagonbach.
Aye.
Wisdom.
Aye.
Feldman.
Aye.
Olshauser. Aye. Humbles.
Aye, motion carried. Earlier this evening, the board held a public hearing regarding the resolution declaring intent to issue up to $2 million in working cash fund bonds. May I have a motion to approve the resolution?
I move to approve the resolution declaring intent to issue up to $2 million of working cash fund bonds as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Wagonball. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Tyra. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Tyra.
Aye.
Wagonbach.
Aye.
Wisdom.
Aye.
Feldman.
Aye.
Olshauser. Aye. Humbles.
Aye.
Smith. Aye.
Motion carried. Information regarding the 2024-2025 high school course selection guide has been included in the board packet. Is there a motion to approve the 2024?
I move to approve the 2024-25 Dunlap High School Course Selection Guide as presented with the exception of AP United States Government and Politics and American History through Sports.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that. I'd like to see more information too.
All right. Any discussion?
Can I ask what the objection to those two courses are?
It's not so much an objection. I don't have enough information. So for the AP course, I read through it from the AP site that lists that, and there appears to be a political bent. It's one-sided. It's not just getting people out to vote. And I'd like to see a text. They have a recommended textbook, and I'd like to see that just to make sure we're teaching our kids how to think instead of what to think. And then for the American History through Sports, I couldn't find a precedent for that. There's no book, there's no handouts, there's not a syllabus, so I'd just like to get some more information on what that was taught. It's also in social studies instead of history or PE. So I just wanted more information. I'm not opposed to either one. I just want more information before we approve it.
There is a syllabus, right? Did you provide a syllabus in your email?
That version of the prospectus, not a complete syllabus.
I thought I read it.
Traditionally, that comes out, 8 courses created.
Okay.
Just a prospectus of an overview of what the intended units of the.
What's the timing of this? I mean, is this something that, because there's questions about 2 courses that have been proposed by someone, I mean, it got through the teachers, it got through Mr. Andrews apparently to get to us. I mean, do we have to take action on this tonight, or can we get more information about these 2 courses and take action in December on this?
Katie, how does this impact your timeline as far as registration for courses?
Start registering in December with our
So you need to know.
I mean, yeah, it'd be done.
What is,
So,
go ahead, Andrew.
well, my question would be this. So is there an opportunity for, one is Dr. Bergschneider, who is the other one, the other teacher? Do we know?
So we didn't have another teacher. So AP Government actually was on Dr. Adrian's, I think it was a 4-year AP plan years back to increase the number of AP classes, and obviously that was
got I mean, and I saw your email, Matt, but, I mean, these courses ostensibly, again, bubble up somehow through teachers and their involvement, and then you, right, have some sort of a sign off, and your role is curriculum. And so, and I haven't talked to anyone up here about either of these classes. I didn't know there was a concern aside from the note that I got, where you're trying to clarify something. So was there any, pushback or discussion? I mean, without having a little more detail, I mean, I agree with Linda. I don't want anyone driving someone necessarily towards something, but I'm also a free thought guy. But it's a little disconcerting that we're talking about taking out a couple courses that apparently some sort of plurality of people wanted to see it get on, and so I'm trying to wrap my head around that. So what is your take on these courses?
So the concern for the textbook is definitely valid. The College Board does put on a list of recommended texts for any course, just like any text. We adopt that go through the adoption process. So given that the course, that's a course that was built for me in my own high school. That was one that I was surprised we did not have, just because the offer was made the offering, so I was excited to see there was an interest for teachers to take that on. Attached to the teaching AP course, to get the schools and all of that. But we do understand the concerns, so if there are some schools that we can talk about those teachers.
I heard what, that's twice I got you, man. I heard what Katie said about the timing and registering in December. Want to keep this train moving here. I mean, is it possible or to vote on all the courses and then add two in a week or two late, once the board gets a little more information on those, if there's concern? I don't know, again, I haven't talked to anyone up here about these courses, so I don't even know what people are thinking, but I don't want to derail the process, but I also don't like the idea of, taking something that, there's some level of questioning about, but I don't know that I'm not an educator, right? And so, but I have opinions, and, yeah,
So instead of just like shooting it down, I think we at least owe them maybe an opportunity to inform, answer questions.
Well, what of my question, Katie, about adding two
So,
classes after registration
the AP
started?
government will be difficult just because, I mean, we could do it, absolutely. But again, that would be, civics is something that everybody has to take in order for a graduation requirement. So we personally, when we talked about that a lot of students would go the AP government route. Could we do it? Yeah, we could absolutely do it. Would it be time consuming and changing a lot of schedules? Yes, it would. For, depending on, I don't know, when's December board, sorry, the 21st. So we have, done juniors or incoming seniors and incoming juniors. So we have a lot of kids that are out there.
So of the list, there are a lot of wins here. There are a lot of courses that we're adding and getting rid of. And so these are the two that board members are having some questions about. We do have a motion on the table, so we need to go ahead and take a vote on that anyway. And so, we had Mrs. Smith with the first, motion, and Mr. Wagonbaugh with a second. Will we please have a roll call vote?
Abby, let me just clarify one more thing. So can I know you said it's gonna be complicated, and I'm not looking to jam you up, Katie, I know you're busy. But, I mean, I'd like some sort of, not only could we do it, I'd like some sort of affirmation, you and Mr. Andrews, maybe Dr. Dearman, also saying that we will bring more information about these two courses back to because at the end of the day, I mean, yes, it's gonna affect schedules, but it's only gonna affect those certain amount of kids that wanna take those two classes. And I know there's a ripple effect then with the rest of their schedules, but I wanna make sure that, I mean, I'm willing to go along with this to, again, to keep the train moving, but with, I want the understanding that everyone's comfortable with bringing back those two courses for conversation that we can then talk about at the next meeting and see if there's an opportunity to get them on.
Is there specific information that we can bring back? Is there specific information, Mrs. Smith, that you're wanting about each of these courses?
Not so much for the AP course.
Oh, yeah, the textbook, I'm sorry.
The textbook for the AP course and the American history through sports, just the syllabus, like in more detail.
But to answer your question, Tom, yes, we can do that. We'll get that information. But we do have a motion and a second on the floor by Robert's Rules of Order. We must take a roll call vote on that motion and a second.
Miranda, roll call vote, please.
Feldman,
Aye.
Olshauser,
Aye.
Humboldt,
Aye.
Smith, Tyra,
No.
Wagenbach,
Aye.
Wisdom.
Motion carried. Information regarding the purchase of additional buses for the 2024-25 school year has been included in the board packet. May I have a motion to approve purchase of additional buses for the 2024-25 school year?
I move to approve the purchase of the additional buses as presented.
Thank you, Mrs. Holzhauser. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wagenbaugh. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm gonna make a point that I expressed to Dr. Dearman already, and, this is a really big budget item, and we're gonna prove it, I assume, tonight. But that doesn't change what we discussed at our last board meeting, is that during the course of this year, we want, in a couple months, 2 months, 3 months, see where we are in terms of our deficit. And if it looks like we're still headed for a $3.5 million deficit, we may have to start looking at some big ticket items like this, and maybe be a little more stingy.
Mr. McKenzie and I can provide updates.
Okay.
No problem.
Roll call vote, please.
Smith, Tyra,
Aye.
Wagenbach,
Aye.
Wisdom,
Aye.
Feldman,
Aye.
Olshauser, Humboldt.
Aye. Motion carried. This concludes the action item portion of the meeting. May I please have a motion to adjourn to closed session?
I move to adjourn to closed session for the following purposes as stated in the Open Meetings Act: the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, student disciplinary cases, discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed, collective negotiating matters, security procedures, purchase or lease of real property, and litigation.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wisdom. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carried. It is 7:20.